Welcome to KBS World Radio. You're now tuned into Korea24's Korea Book Club, where we explore the world of Korean literature. This is our weekend replay edition, playing back our book segment from Wednesday's show. I hope you enjoy it. I'm your host, Alana Hill. And today we're joined by our literary critic, Barry Welch. Welcome back, Barry.
Hello, great to be here.
Well, let's dive right in. What book are you introducing to our listeners today?
So this week's book is Piñatas for the Year of the Dragon, Conversations with Current and Former Expats in South Korea by Eileen Cahill. And so this is a collection of conversations with 12 non-Koreans who've lived in South Korea either in the past or right now. And these include teachers, journalists, photographers, a professor, a refugee from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and even a former self-described hippie who cheerfully claims to be a reincarnation of a famous artist. And Cahill is herself a long-term resident of Korea, so she's not just parachuting in, so to speak. She has a nuanced, lived-in view of expat life here. And so essentially she sits down or exchanges messages with these people and just lets them talk honestly about why they came, what they found, and what it meant for their lives. So, for example, we meet Christine, who initially steps off the plane at Incheon and suddenly realizes, I'm completely on my own now. What if I freak out and need to run back home? And then later we hear from Elaine, who was escaping recession-hit New York and arrived in Korea almost as a stopgap, and then ended up staying and building a career in journalism. So this isn't a how-to guide or a glossy K-culture love letter. It's really a series of quite intimate chats with real people who've tried to make a life in Korea for better and for worse. And the title nods to the year of the Dragon, which was 2024, and the Piñatas idea. I apologize if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but the Piñatas idea is that you crack these stories open and all sorts of unexpected things spill out. So the fear and the excitement, the culture shock, and also the humour and affection of living in a different country.
And some of our listeners might actually recognise the author's name. Eileen worked as an editor here at the English service of KBS World Radio, has even appeared here on Korea24 in the past. And as you mentioned, Barry, she has a long experience in Korea, and I think given her own experience and the range of people she speaks to in the book, what kinds of stories and themes emerge from these conversations?
Right, so a lot of it revolves around the big question. So why do people leave home to work in a totally different country, and what do they actually find when they get here? And for some, Korea is a stepping stone, or it's a kind of a reset button, a reset period in their life. You've got people who come to teach English, or, like I said, people who are escaping recession-hit cities or countries at different times in the recent past, and people just sort of regrouping after burning out in a previous career. You also have people who are sort of trying, one more adventure before settling down, and we see lots of worries about loneliness. The English teacher is he isn't sure he is goofy or sort of animated or lively enough to be a good teacher. There's another late woman who discovers that going back home to the US after Korea is more disorientating than she initially expected.
That reverse culture shock.
Reverse culture shock, yes, very real thing. And then the book also looks at what Korea offers to these people who've come to try and build lives here. So several of the interviewees talk about the strong work ethic that you might encounter here in Korea, the respect for age, which is different from some other countries. The energy in the classroom that you might be expected to have, and just the joy of discovering new food and culture and these types of things. At the same time, Cahill doesn't shy away from the downsides that some of these people have experienced. So there's stories about the career ceilings for foreigners, or the struggle with language, or even with hierarchy in the workplace, or perhaps even ageism in the job market for some older expats and immigrants. and then even darker issues like sweatshops and manufacturing and unresolved wounds from wartime atrocities such as military sexual slavery. So one chapter focuses on a photographer and a Japanese photographer who's also an NGO worker, who's sort of supporting Korean survivors of these kind of systems. And then you've also got sometimes sort of unspoken, but COVID runs through the background as well, disrupting people's lives and jobs, travel plans, visas, this kind of thing. And you also see a sort of strong adventurous streak in lots of these people. So many of these people still end up traveling elsewhere or circling back to Korea after a period of time. And charmingly, maybe this is because of some Cahill's own personal interest, but their pets keep popping up in the stories as kind of as observers to all of these movements.
It sounds like the book really captures the full spectrum. You know, the practical reasons people come, the emotional ups and downs of trying to settle in, and then the complicated realities they encounter along the way of all that. And it's interesting to hear how Korea can both be a launching pad and a landing place, depending on the person. It sounds personal and easy to read, but then it also doesn't gloss over, the harder realities of leaving your family behind, leaving your country behind, and moving somewhere totally new. And by letting each story stand on its own, it really sounds like Cahill gives a really honest picture of how varied expat life in Korea can be, from the small day-to-day moments to the much heavier issues some people are faced with. Finally, Barry, would you recommend Piñatas for the Year of the Dragon? Who do you think this is for? Is it only really for expats, or do you think other people would enjoy it too?
In general, I would recommend it to anyone who's curious about what life in Korea is actually like, especially for expats, I guess, beyond the K-drama sheen or the popular Korean Instagram accounts, and especially if you're thinking of coming here to teach or work or even just travel. I think it gives you a much richer and maybe messier picture. It's Korea as a place to come for different reasons, to regroup after a crisis, or build a career, to get stuck, or to fall in love with, or even eventually to outgrow. So it's a really interesting book, I think, maybe even for Koreans too, because it shows how the country looks to these outsiders, right? The admiration for things like education and food, but maybe also the way that some foreigners experience issues like labour exploitation or denial around historical issues. And just generally, it's a good read for anyone who sees travel as part of their life or their education. Cahill's not sugarcoating expat life, but again, not wallowing in the misery that some can experience either. Some people stay, some leave, some come back, some land on their feet elsewhere, and other people are still figuring it out. So if you like these kind of human stories about risk or people trying to reinvent their lives and just what it means to try and build a life far from home, told in a friendly, easygoing voice, then Piñatas for the Year of the Dragon is well worth picking up.
So it sounds like a great pick for anyone curious about the real, everyday side of living in Korea, not necessarily the polished version, but the mix of opportunities, challenges and reinvention that people actually experience. So listeners, if you're interested in a candid look at what it means to build a life here in Korea in all its complexity, Piñatas for the Year of the Dragon might be one to add to your reading list. And that brings us to the end of this week's Korea Book Club. Barry, thank you as always for your insights.
My pleasure.